From the beautiful city of Los Angeles, California, we bring you the Gimme 3 podcast. Hello and welcome, cinephiles, cinema lovers, movie appreciators, friends and family, to the Gimme 3 podcast, a series for cinephiles. This is the show where we pick 3 films based on one theme. I'm Nicholas Ibarra. I am joined, as always, by the brilliant Bella Efstratus. Bella, how are you doing today?
Hello. I'm doing well. Today has been crazy. We've had a little bit of a slow start to the morning, but I'm happy to be here. I'm really excited for our episode today. And honestly, it's been crazy, but I'm still in a good mood. Spooky season is coming, my favorite time of the year, so I couldn't be happier, really.
Spooky season is coming, and for all of our spooky film fans, we've got some stuff coming down the pipe for you. Next week, we're doing a discussion on a bunch of the actors who've played Joker, so that's going to be fun.
Yes.
And then we've got some Hispanic horror films we're going to be discussing. We've got horror films directed by women, and much, much more. And a lot of you have been giving us some great feedback on the old Gimme 3 podcast, and we appreciate it dearly. And if you do dig the show, and if you dig this episode and want to support the show, there are a few ways you could do that. One, you can sign up for our Patreon. You could do that by following the link in our episode description. And then, of course, you can just subscribe or follow the show. And whatever your favorite podcast platform is, set that show to automatic downloads, because actual downloads help boost our show in the algorithm. They help us out a lot. Why or how, that I can't tell you. I just work here, but
We don't know.
but it does. And of course, just listening, just being here. We appreciate you guys being here with us on what is going to be a great episode today, because we did not come here to discuss algorithms today. We came here to discuss and celebrate the life, the career, the outstanding legacy of one James Earl Jones, who sadly passed away earlier this month, September 9th, 2024, at the young age of 93. Mm-hmm. And Jones, he was a legend, not just on screen, as most of us know him, a legend on the stage as well. Over the course of his career, he earned 2 Tony Awards, one for his performance as a boxer in The Great White Hope, and we're actually going to be discussing the film adaptation of The Great White Hope on today's show. He also won a Tony Award for his role in the play Fences, which of course was adapted into a film by Denzel Washington a few years back. He is only one of 27 human beings ever to join the EGOT club. Do you know that, Bella?
Wow. What is that?
You know what EGOT is? So EGOT is earning the Emmy, the Grammy, the Oscar, and the Tony.
Oh my God. And wait, sorry, how many people have only done this so far?
27.
27. Wow. Oh my God.
And he is one of the select few to earn that prestigious honor of being an EGOT winner.
Incredible.
Yeah. But awards were not what captivated the audience about James Earl Jones. Early in his career, he had this high energy presence that made him just like a total menace on stage and on screen. Of course, he's got the good looks. He's got the booming bass voice, which is unforgettable. And that voice obviously would go on to become unforgettable and undeniable and immediately recognizable when James Earl Jones started voicing the iconic villain Darth Vader in the Star Wars films. And over the last 40 years of his career, Jones would voice, a lot of famous characters. He did Vader, he did Mufasa, he did a lot of commercials and guest appearances on shows like The Simpsons. But what is remarkable that I found out is James Earl Jones actually grew up with a stutter.
Oh, yeah. I heard that or I learned that from an interview I was watching when uh for Darth Vader, and my mind was blown. Never would
Yeah.
have guessed it.
One of the best pontificators of our generation had a stutter growing up. So the story is his father left him and his mother when he was a baby, and
Mm.
Jones actually went to live with his grandparents at a young age. Went from the South, went up to I think it was Michigan
Mm.
during the Great Migration, actually. And this journey to his grandparents and starting to live with his grandparents, it was a traumatic experience for him. So his
Mm.
first year of school, Jones barely spoke, and most people thought that he was mute, actually, because he's just
Wow.
like he did not speak, and when he did speak, he had a very severe stutter.
Oh,
But
wow.
James loved poetry, and he loved writing poetry. And so even at a young age, he was like writing poetry. And James Earl Jones credits one of his teachers, Donald Crouch, not a grouch, for recognizing his talent for, poem writing, poetry. That's the word. Yeah. Recognized his talent, and he started pushing him to read the poems out loud, which actually helped him get over his stutter. Not only that, helped him with his confidence, and I guess you could say might have been a catalyst for his love of performance. So how about that?
Yeah. Oh, I
Teachers,
love that.
they do
What
not get paid enough, I'm telling you.
seriously.
Um, so we got James Earl Jones. He also served in the military during the Korean War. And
My God.
yeah, he was expected to be sent into the battle lines almost immediately. He ended up not being, despite it being wartime. And luckily, he was stationed in Michigan for a while. And while waiting for his orders, he was working at the Romsdale Theater, both as an actor and on the stage crew. So even in service, he kind of like started falling more in love with the craft and the art of performance. And his first film role came in Stanley Kubrick's Doctor Strangelove, because Kubrick saw
Mm.
him in a Shakespeare in the Park play with, I think it was George C. Scott and Kubrick. This is not a great anecdote, but Kubrick was like, saw George C. Scott, and he was like, "All right, I want that one for that's my guy for Doctor Strangelove." And he was like, "And I like the black one too." Yeah.
Oh my God.
So,
Classic
anyways,
Kubrick.
classic Kubrick. So got that role. So from that first role of him in Doctor Strangelove to his final performance, reprising his role as King Jafar in Coming to America, James Earl
Mm.
Jones has just been magnetic. We will get into it later, but I would also say that it's probably likely that without James Earl Jones, I it's possible I would say I would not be a filmmaker today, and
Mm.
also probably this podcast wouldn't exist. We'll get into the reasons why later, but before we get into the three fascinating films that we're going to discuss today, Bella, any overarching thoughts on James Earl Jones?
Yeah, I was so happy to do this tribute episode, and if anything, it's just made me want to watch all of his movies now, which has happened with all of the past tribute episodes that we've done. But it's just, yeah, his work is amazing, and I'm really excited to talk about um, some of his like physical performances today, since
Mm-hmm.
feel like for my generation specifically, we grew up a lot with like his voiceover or voice acting work. So.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when he's just such a brilliant performer. So I'm so excited to jump into the three films for today.
Yes, and we're going to start with The Great White Hope, 1970, directed by Martin Ritt, written by Howard Sackler, which is based on his play, which is also based on the real life of a real boxer, Jack Johnson.
Mm.
So the film stars James Earl Jones, of course, and Jane Alexander, both of whom received Academy Award nominations for their performances. James Earl Jones was only the second black actor to be nominated for Best Actor after Sidney
Wow.
Poitier in this film. So the film is set during the Jim Crow era. The Great White Hope follows Jack Jefferson. They changed his last name. A black boxer who goes on a hot streak of smashing white fools. He is just smashing these white boxers.
Yeah.
More than smashing them, he's smashing them with a smile, you know.
Yes.
And
Best
best part, man. Jack defeats the heavyweight champion, becoming the first black heavyweight champion in boxing. And the white people are pissed. They try and throw every giant white boxer they can at Jefferson, and it just does not work. They call these men, these boxers that they're throwing on, they always call them the Great White Hope because they want to bring the belt back to the race, you know. Well, they all fail. And what pisses them off more than this black man, charismatic black man, defeating all of their white boxers, is that this black man is in love and a committed relationship with a white woman, Eleanor Bachman, who's played by Jane Alexander. And this just does not sit well with the boxing commission. It does not sit well with the white community at large. Frankly, it doesn't sit well with the black community at large either.
Yeah.
So what the boxing commission has to resort to is fabricating a bogus charge that Jack Jefferson has violated the Mann Act. Total bogus charge. Jack and Eleanor end up fleeing the country, and they're forced to take fights abroad. But it's not long before Jack realizes that the two most important fights, the fights he cannot ignore, and that he does not want to take, are the fights back home and the fight with himself. Dun, dun, dun. Dun, dun, dun. The Great White Hope. Bella, what were your thoughts on the Great White Hope?
Oh, I thought this was spectacular. I think it's insane that some of James Earl Jones' most known performances in film are voice work when he has such a physical and brilliant performance as this. Like, he completely dominates the screen in this film, physically and emotionally, which I love so much. Like, there's those boxing scenes early in the film are so awesome. I was like, this is so cool to watch, especially having watched like Rocky recently for the podcast.
Right.
I guess not too recently. That was a while ago now, but it's still on the brain, obviously. But yeah, the way that's shot and the way he's just like throwing everything he has into it and the smile on his face, it was so fun to watch. And then just his portrayal of, this character's transition from a very happy and charming man in love, he's on top of the world, to eventually this kind of tortured soul who's like becoming like a haunted shell of the man he once was. It's just such a profound performance, and like immediately I was like, it's no wonder this earned him his first Oscar nomination. It's incredible to watch.
Yeah, the arc that Jones portrays is really, really powerful. Yeah, like you said, you see him just like so full of life, and he's smiling all the time early in the movie, even when he's kicking the ass,
Yeah.
And then just beat by beat, year after year, they just start beating this man down. You can see the light and the fire in his eyes dim. And then what is so powerful about it is when you see that light starting to dim and that fire dying, Eleanor's light starts to die also. And the final act of the film is just, it's really difficult to watch because it's so goddamn heartbreaking.
Oh my God. Yeah. This film kind of broke me, honestly. I knew it was going to be like intense, but I was not prepared to be like crying the whole movie. And I shout out Eleanor as well. She was fantastic in this. Just really went toe to toe with him, which I thought was really impressive. But yeah, their connection and their love was it felt so real in this. Like they were both just so lived in, and I loved that like honeymoon montage. I was even crying during that because I thought it was so beautiful. Honestly, even just visually, this film was really beautiful. Unfortunately, I had to watch it on a not so great YouTube stream. And I think it's criminal that this isn't streaming anywhere right now. But the second it is, I'm 100% going to rewatch it because I really want to see it in all of its glory.
Well, if you don't want to stream it and you don't want to watch a YouTube link of it, I rented it at Vidiot's. So I haven't returned it yet, but I will be returning it today. So if you live in Los Angeles, go check out Vidiot's and you can rent it. You can tell them that I sent you. And I'm sure it's available at your other, local video stores. I do want to talk about the fight scene that concludes the film. And I don't want to give much away because it is a must watch. And I know a lot of people have not seen this movie, but it is one of the more gripping fight sequences I've seen on film. And it's not really like the fight choreography is terrific or anything or like mind blowing, but the character work that they have done up to this point, it's kind of like the first Rocky where it's like the fight choreography is kind of, lackluster, I guess you could call it. Same thing with this, but in both Rocky and in this, the character work that has been done leading up to the final fight is just so fantastic. And the stakes feel so high, much higher in this one than Rocky, even, I would say. It's just a really powerful scene. I was on the total edge of my seat and just my heart was just like clenched, It was really, really intense.
That scene is like the Oscar-worthy end monologue, but with no words, which is so incredible. Like, that's what makes it so amazing, is like he doesn't even have to say anything and you just know exactly what is going on inside. And it's like, and in the crowd, and like, it is phenomenal.
Yeah, really, really powerful stuff. That's a great way to put it. That's his big Oscar speech, but he does it all non-verbally, and he's doing it while he's fighting, but he's given this performance through his eyes. It just tells you the whole story of this character, what he's been through, what he's trying to do to survive. It's outstanding work by all parties involved. And the setting is dope. The fight takes place in Havana, Cuba, and it is outside, and it's like in the daytime. It's just like you just don't see fights like that anymore. So it's like fucking this just like looks awesome. You could see all the people there. It's Yeah,
it has kind of like a Gladiator vibe to it too, because it's so like, it's also so messed up at the same time, like everything he's gone through. And honestly, I was really impressed with this film. Like, I'm excited to rewatch it already. I thought it was so maybe I just didn't really know about it, but it feels underrated to me, like not talked about enough. But
yeah, I agree. I mean, being a James Earl Jones fan, I hadn't seen it. I hadn't heard of it.
Yeah.
And I thought about why that might be. And I was like, okay, this movie came out in 1970, which is kind of smack dab in the middle of, what they call New Hollywood, this new wave of filmmakers. And this does not have a new Hollywood feel. If anything, it has a very much old Hollywood feel. It feels
absolutely.
Yeah, it feels kind of like of its time, like it was made in, the 20s or 30s, although it has like these bold, brilliant colors. But
100%. Yeah.
So it feels like a Hollywood movie. And I think at that time, for even as powerful and, this movie really should have done a lot more during its time, because you're just coming out of the civil rights era. And here's a movie about, still fighting those issues in 1970 that were being fought in the Jim Crow era. So I was surprised by the fact that it did not do well at the box office and did not make its money back, even in, the rental circuit. But I think it's just like right movie, wrong time, because everybody was looking for,
Something
the
different. Yeah.
Graduate, you know, like
Yeah.
this is not The Graduate. This is a Hollywood movie, but a damn good Hollywood movie that has a hell of a lot to say, and it's got a damn fine performance by James Earl Jones.
Yeah, definitely ahead of its time, which is crazy to say, but um in terms of like I completely agree with everything you're saying. I thought it was amazing how old it felt for a seven. Like I know that maybe that would turn some people away, but I thought that was so brilliant because it just made this era feel so real and like really take you back to that. And I was just I was really impressed with the execution of that.
And again, like I said, this is based off a real person, Jack Johnson,
Yeah,
who, I mean, Jack Johnson was born in 1878. Just think about that. Just 13 years after the
dude,
13th Amendment was ratified. So, what a
that's
fucking
nuts.
feat. What an accomplishment for this man to become the first black heavyweight champion. And when they don't really touch on this in the film, like you kind of gather that it would happen, but when he beat James Jeffries, what they call the fight of the century, when he beat that
Mhm.
white boxer for the belt, I mean, there
Yeah.
was race riots all over the country. Race riots
Mm.
all over the country. This guy was the most famous black man for like 20 years because
That's so crazy.
everybody hated him because he was so
Yeah,
good.
that is insane. Oh, fantastic movie. I highly recommend this
hmm
to
And
everyone.
yeah, and you get to see James as a young whippersnapper in this.
Oh,
He's
yes.
fucking cut. His body's banging. He's just sweating
Yeah.
all the time.
He's so charming
Yeah.
too.
hmm Incredible, incredible work. Any final thoughts on The Great White Hope?
I think that's everything. I loved this movie. I'm excited. I'm hoping that this will inspire people to watch it and spark more conversation around it because I think it does deserve to be talked about more.
Absolutely. And if you do check it out, please let us know. Like I said, you can check it out at your local video stores for sure. I can guarantee you that Vidiot's has it. I'm sure Cinephile Video or Videotech have it. If you've got a local video store, if you live in Chicago, New York, or other cities around, check if you got a local video store because I'm sure they have. If they don't have it, contact me. We'll get you something. We'll get you something going. The Great Wide Hope from 1970. Excellent, excellent movie.
While this next James Earl Jones role isn't on screen, it is perhaps his most recognizable, and that is his legendary voice acting as one of cinema's greatest villains, Darth Vader. James Earl Jones, the man behind one of the most famous lines in movie history. You guys all know exactly what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I bet you can do an amazing impression of that line, Nick.
No.
I'm really putting you on the spot here.
Luke, I am your father.
Yes.
No.
It's really, really dramatic.
I
Like,
think my
yeah,
Mark
it's a big
Hamill's better
moment.
than my James.
I really liked the now.
It's not true. That's impossible.
Oh man, kind of ruins the moment a little bit. No offense, Mark Hamill, but it really took me out of it. Oh, anyways, out of the films that do feature Darth Vader in the Star Wars trilogy, we decided to watch the second film, The Empire Strikes Back, which is the fifth chapter chronologically in the Skywalker saga. The film was released in 1980 and directed by Irvin Kershner. And the screenplay actually has, I think, a really interesting backstory. The original screenplay, the first draft of it, anyways, was written by the Queen of Space Opera, Lee Brackett. She was a legendary science fiction author and screenwriter from the golden age of sci-fi, which spanned from like 1938 to 1946. And George Lucas always admired her work, so he invited her to write the sequel to Star Wars. And sadly, Brackett passed away from cancer in 1978 right after finishing it. So the screenplay was passed over to Lawrence Kasdan to finish it for the film. But I just thought it was so cool that the initial concept and screenplay for this incredibly timeless and beloved film was written by a woman, let alone a woman regarded as the queen of sci-fi. I just think that's so cool.
Yeah,
So
I
I
did
had to
not know
check that
that.
out. Right. I love that. I would love to be regarded as the queen of sci-fi. I'm honestly jealous.
Yeah.
um Anyways, we've got our core ensemble in this film. Mark Hamill as our hero, Luke Skywalker, Harrison Ford as the ever charming scoundrel Han Solo, the late great and absolutely stunning Carrie Fisher as Princess Leia, and Billy D. Williams is featured as Lando Calrissian. And then let's not forget our favorite droid duo, Anthony Daniels as C-3PO and Kenny Baker as R2-D2, my personal favorite. Plus two absolute icons, Peter Mayhew as Chewbacca, the best Wookiee in the galaxy, and the legendary puppeteer Frank Oz as the equally legendary Yoda. And of course, for Darth Vader, we have David Prowse physical portrayal, while James Earl Jones provided the iconic voice that we all know. So, this film takes place 3 years after the events of the first film, A New Hope. The Empire and Darth Vader are relentlessly hunting Luke Skywalker, who's gone into hiding with Han Solo, Princess Leia, and the rest of the Rebel Alliance. But like any classic protagonist of an epic series, Luke simply cannot sit on the sidelines while the galaxy is at war. The Force is strong within him, so he's decided to venture out into the universe alone to train with one of the galaxy's greatest Jedi masters, Yoda, in hopes of harnessing the power of the Force to prepare for his inevitable confrontation with Darth Vader. I'm so excited to talk more about this film. The Empire Strikes Back holds a very special, nostalgic place in my heart. I grew up watching it with my dad and my brother. I can literally remember going to Blockbuster and renting all of these movies. I must have been only like 5 or 6 years old when I first watched it, but so there are certain scenes I remember vividly, maybe even traumatized me a little bit. Namely that opening scene with the bloodthirsty abominable snow monster. I don't really know what to call it.
Right.
But that haunted me for years. Oh my goodness. Anyways, Nick, what were your thoughts on The Empire Strikes Back? Also, are you a Star Wars fan? I feel like I may have asked you this before, but
well, that's a complicated question, Bella.
It's like, I don't think he is.
I didn't know if we wanted to get into it here, but since you've asked, here we go.
I had to ask.
I remember being sick one day at school, or sick from school. So I stayed home and my mom had the day off and I was sick, but I was like kind of feeling better. And my mom, awesome that she is, was like, hey, you want to go to a movie? Let's go to a movie.
Oh, I love that.
And this was like 1997. This was when they re-released the Star Wars trilogy in theaters. So I think I was 8 years old or 7 years old or something. And she took me to see Return of the Jedi. And I was absolutely blown away by this movie. I thought it was out of this world. And I guess technically it is out of this world. But it really sparked my love for cinema. And when the re-release came out on VHS, I got them on VHS, and on those VHSs there was like behind the scenes featurettes of like the making of the films from like the 70s and 80s, and then how they updated them, for the modern. And I was just totally enthralled and engaged by all of this. And I was like, fucking A, this is what I want to do. Like, look at that, man. That looks awesome. So I credit Star Wars for making me fall in love with cinema. And a huge part of that is James Earl Jones' vocal performance as Darth Vader, because it was really him, especially in Jedi, which in hindsight is not a good movie. That movie sucks quite the ass. But Vader in that movie is outstanding. outstanding. And I hadn't seen Star Wars. I hadn't seen Empire Strikes Back in that first time I watched it in
Oh, wow.
the
So you're just
theater.
jumping
So I
right
just
in.
jumping right
Yeah.
in, and I was just enthralled with that character because I was like
Mm.
scared of him, but I could tell there was like good, like all the things that the filmmakers are
Yeah.
trying to get you to believe about this character. I believed it, and I was on the hook for it. So for a good chunk of my life, I was a bona fide Star Wars fan. A what I thought I was going to be a lifer.
Yeah.
And then, you get the prequels, and I was like, okay. I was still young, so I was like, yeah, they're awesome, but then, you go back and you watch them, and you're just like, are they though?
Like,
And then this new trilogy comes out, and I can Episode 9, man. Episode 9. I remember coming out of the theater having just watched Episode 9. What is it? Whatever. I don't even know what the fuck it's called.
Yeah, which
man.
one is
I
that?
don't
I'm like,
no. Who knows? Who knows? Who cares? Yeah. Like, honestly, I remember I saw it at the Universal AMC, and I remember taking the tram back from the Universal lot down to the train station, and I called Sonia, and I said, I have wasted my life. I have given so many years, so much money to this franchise, and it is in the absolute shitter. And this new trilogy put the original trilogy for me in the shitter. I still have, at some point I'm going to sell them, boxes, giant, huge crates of Star Wars action figures still in their packaging, original packaging.
Oh my God, that's still cool.
I at one point had so much Star Wars knowledge that it could have filled a goddamn swimming pool. And after seeing Episode 9, I made the conscious decision. We're getting deep here.
This is wild. I'm learning so much.
I said, I'm breaking up with Star Wars. I have been wronged too many times. I felt like, the abusive spouse who keeps going back to the, the person who keeps beating them and cheating on them and stuff. It's just like, I can take no more. I can take this aggression will not stand.
This aggression will not stand.
So I made that decision then that I was breaking up with Star Wars, and I had like a literal like drug induced seance where I made the conscious decision to erase a lot of my Star Wars knowledge from my mind, because I was like, you know what? I can use some of this storage. I could use some of this mind space for other important things like, wrestling knowledge, wrestling history, So you asked me, am I a Star Wars fan? I would say I have a love-hate relationship with Star Wars. I have a deep admiration for the original trilogy. I credit it for sparking my love for cinema, and it literally, without Star Wars and particularly without James Earl Jones and his vocal performance as Darth Vader, I might not be doing what I do today. As a cinephile, as a cinema fan, those last 3 movies, that last trilogy, made me question everything, my entire world belief. Yeah.
That's fair, honestly. They're almost like it's like a different it's a different Star Wars. Like, I don't even really connect those to the original trilogy that I grew up watching as well. And honestly, I don't think I ever even watched the next the second trilogy or whatever, the prequels. So I actually still need to go and check those out. But sounds like I'm not missing out too much.
You're not missing out. Maybe one day we'll do the 3 different trilogies as 3 different episodes on the Gimme 3 podcast.
That would be fun. That would be a lot of fun, honestly. I mean, watching just this one was honestly difficult because I was like, shit, now I want to go watch the others.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I can't just watch this as a standalone, especially that ending. Like, oh, I
Right,
was so hyped.
right. It does. It's one of the great cliffhanger films of all time.
Yeah, yeah. Where you're like, you're not really mad about it. You're
Yeah,
like, that was
it
awesome.
was
But
awesome.
also, I need more.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, I
anyways,
have to
yeah.
say,
Enough about
oh,
me.
sorry.
Enough about
No,
me.
I loved that though. I'm happy I have this knowledge, this background to you now. It and I think it's very valid.
Yeah.
I have to say I was not expecting this movie to look as cool as I remembered it. It actually kind of looked even cooler. I watched it on Disney Plus, so I'm sure it's been remastered a million times since I last watched it, like
Hmm.
20 years ago now. But oh, like everything was so crisp and clear, and it's actually really beautiful. Um,
That's one thing to talk about me again for a second. That was the one thing
Please.
I also do remember was that first time watching it in the theater in 1997, watching Return of the Jedi. I remember
Yeah.
my mom telling me after we got out that the movie was, whatever, 20 some years old. And I didn't believe
Yeah.
her because I was
You're
like,
like, that doesn't make sense.
how this movie looks better than anything that's out there today. So how could this movie be 20
Yeah.
some odd years old? I was obviously just a stupid kid, but I was like, my mind was blown. I was like, how did they do that 20 some odd years earlier? That's insane.
Yeah, it looks crazy now. I wonder what it would be like to watch like the original version um compared to what we have now, but it's pretty crazy. And I think for me the rich diversity of the sets and locations in this film is
Hmm.
really what makes it stand out as like a masterful work of sci-fi and world building
Yeah.
because we start out in the freezing tundra with like flesh-eating monsters and adorable little alien horses. And then we have this like exhilarating chase through an asteroid field in the Millennium Falcon, which was just so much fun. um, and by the end of the film, we're in this breathtaking city in the clouds, and it's like a glowing orange sunset. Um, and I've said it so many times before, but I'll say it again. I'm a massive sci-fi fantasy world building nerd, so I was just in awe of this film. It really is a magnificent visual spectacle. And then, of course, John Williams blesses us with the most spectacular score of all time. Even Jonathan, my boyfriend, who's not a Star Wars fan at all, like he will shit on this series any chance he gets without having even watched a second of it. Um, he walked in while maybe he's watched it a little bit, but he walked in while I was watching it, and the Imperial March, like Vader's theme, was playing. And he goes, "This is the best part of the movies." And I was like, "Oh, Darth Vader?" And he's like, "No, the song." I was like, that's honestly fair. But that being said, Darth Vader is actually the best part of the series. I think we can all agree that he has one of the coolest character designs of all time. He's like he's like a dark prince, he's got that flowing cape, his shiny black armor and that iconic helmet. And then you pair that with the eerie scuba tank breathing effect. It's just so fucking cool. um and then James Earl Jones' voice is just perfect for the character. That deep kind of gravel, like booming voice and
Hmm.
menacing tone. And then you mix it with like the kind of mechanical effect they have going on, which I love because it constantly reminds you that this guy is like part machine, part human, which I think is just also such a great metaphor for his character. Like he kind of appears as a man, but like inside he's soulless, he's heartless. Um, like his humanity is gone. So I love Darth Vader. He's one of my favorite characters.
He
Obviously.
is undoubtedly the character with the most, I would say, depth.
Yeah, yeah.
With hindsight being 2020, and I mean, I don't even think that's arguable because the whole purpose for continuing this saga after they made the trilogy, the whole purpose for doing the prequel trilogy was to see the backstory of Darth Vader, the most interesting character. Or they're like, how did he
Yeah.
become this? That's the whole,
Exactly. Yeah.
premise for it. And is because he is, evil, and we want to find out how bad people become, or how good people become bad, and
Yeah.
what was it like having this person once be good.
Yeah.
But
Going to the dark side. Like that whole concept is fascinating.
mhm. Yeah, and James Earl Jones just adds, like, it's always biting. It's always like, so, in a way, he doesn't go above or below certain notes in these
Mhm.
performances. There's something about his vocal performance. I'm not quite sure how he does it, but there's something there that just, even before anybody knew what the prequels were going to be, there's just some sort of, like, especially in this film and in Jedi, an element of pain and backstory to his
Yeah.
vocal performance that I think is really understated, but it is there, and it is part of the reason
Yes.
why they decided to continue this whole fucking thing.
I think you're spot on with that, cuz there are moments where his voice kind of wavers almost,
Mhm.
but it's not like in like a way that is perceived as like weak. It's
Right.
actually terrifying because you're thinking, "Oh my god, this person is so angry and has so much anger and hate inside of him," especially since he's like chasing down his son to like kill him basically in this film. Like that is just very intense stuff,
Very
honestly.
intense. Very
He's
intense.
dealing with a lot in this movie. Nothing's really going his way. Uh, he's got a lot of pressure from the Sith, pressure at work. um, yeah, and that fight scene. I mean, obviously, that's David Prowse, but
Mhm.
it's still, I have to shout it out because the sound design with his breathing and the lightsabers,
I think
it's
it's
so
I
awesome.
think it's the coolest, most impactful. That one and the one in Jedi, to me,
Yeah.
are the best lightsaber battles of the
Yeah.
entire series, because they are grounded in some emotion. There's like something actually
Yeah.
going on in those fight sequences. It's not just fancy lightsaber work, which is,
Mhm.
which
Absolutely.
can be cool, but I mean, you could feel Luke, like, wanting to be the hero and him not being ready for it in this
Mhm.
battle. And then you feel, Vader toying with him and being kind of conflicted and wanting his son to join him and maybe not wanting his son to join him for other reasons. It's like all of that is there, and you don't really
Yeah.
get that in a lot of the lightsaber battles that you experience in the prequel trilogies or the sequel trilogy, whatever you want to call the new saga stuff. Um,
Right.
some fascinating trivia about James Earl Jones as Darth Vader, if you'd like to hear some.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Always.
In originally this film and Star Wars, the original, James Earl
Mhm.
Jones was not credited as Darth Vader at
Mm.
all, because he did not want to be credited, because he believed that David Prowse should take all the credit for the performance.
What?
And he said, basically, what I'm doing is just SFX work. I'm not actually doing the performance. That's David Prowse. I don't want to take away from him. And
Oh,
I think
so humble.
I think after he saw this movie, he was like, "All right, I'll take some fucking credit." So
He's like, "Wait a second."
he did end up taking credit for Return of the Jedi, and then when they did the re-release, they put his name on the
Good.
first two as well. And for that famous scene that we discussed earlier, that I so brilliantly reenacted, Luke, I am your father. James
So
said
good.
that when he read the script
Mm.
and he read that line, Luke, I am your father, he said, he's lying. Oh, how are they going to play this lie out? He didn't
Mm.
believe that Vader was Luke Skywalker. He thought it was going to be,
Oh.
all smoke and mirrors, and that Vader was kind of lying to manipulate Luke Skywalker. And in
Oh my
hindsight, it's like,
god.
that kind of would have been cooler.
Yeah, a little bit.
But,
It's just mind games.
yeah. So anyways, I thought that was interesting.
Oh my god, that's so interesting because it makes you think, like, how would he perform it
Yeah.
with a like, the actual context?
Right. Right.
That's so cool.
Orson Welles auditioned to be the voice of Darth Vader, actually, as well.
Really?
Mhm. But didn't
That
get
is
it.
so funny.
So
Well, I don't think anyone could have done what James Earl Jones
no,
did.
no.
It just he is start like, he just brought that character to life. Especially, like, I went and, like, watched some YouTube videos where it was, David Prowse
Yeah.
voice, and I was like, "Holy shit, thank God they got someone else to voice this guy." Just did not work. No offense to him, but it did not work
Yeah.
for the character at all.
For the original Star Wars film, James Earl Jones recorded the whole voiceover for the entire character in that movie in 2.5 hours and got paid
Damn.
$7,000. Isn't that
Oh
crazy? One of the
my
most
god.
iconic villains ever. Homeboy came in for
$7,000.
2.5 hours and was like, "Okay, I think that's a day's work," and it's just, I mean, it's just fast. I mean, it makes sense because he's
That
like,
is crazy. Yeah.
A, the movie was probably like over budget at that point. B, he doesn't have
Right.
that many lines in it. And C, nobody knew that Star Wars was going to be Star Wars. So he was like, "Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
I'll go in and I'll get a
I don't think
paycheck."
anyone could have predicted what it became.
Yeah. So
I
anyway,
mean, it's insane.
I thought that was quite hilarious. 2.5 hours of
That is
work.
so funny.
And
He just
he
didn't even think twice about it.
made Darth Vader. Outstanding.
Oh,
Um,
that is incredible. Man, I
that's
love
it.
it. I love this movie.
I do too.
I had a
I
lot
do
of
too.
fun.
I
I
think
had a lot of fun with
it
it.
is by far my favorite Star Wars film, arguably.
Yeah.
And trust me, I'm more than down to argue with anybody who wants to argue. Come at me. This is
I
the
love it.
only great Star Wars film. I think there's some others that are good, but in my opinion, this
This
is
one
the
is great.
only great Star Wars film. And it is because so much of it is Vader. You know, like
Yeah.
he's kind of the star of this one, you know, like obviously Luke
Mhm.
is there, but like the permeating pressure and threat of Vader throughout this film,
It's
of him
very real.
having a chip on his shoulder and just fucking with
Mhm.
everybody's shit.
Yeah.
I mean, my God.
It's so true. I love that you said Luke is there because people are probably gonna kill me for this, but I hate Luke. He's so annoying. Like, I could do without okay, I don't know. I was gonna say I could do without the, like, Rocky training session with him and Yoda, but at the same time, I remember watching this as a kid, like, thinking Yoda hanging on to Luke's back for dear life while he's running and flipping through the forest was the funniest thing I'd ever seen in my life, and rewatching it today, it definitely is. I was like, "What the fuck is this?" Um,
Yeah.
it's yeah, I
Go.
also did not remember Yoda looking like that. He looks crazy in this movie. Actually, Io Edibiri had a really funny letterboxed review about it. She was like, "This movie is great, but I was really shocked by how ugly Yoda was. Sorry if that pisses anybody off, but I had only seen Baby Yoda, and adult Yoda is fucking busted." It's like so true.
Yeah, you know, as an adult, you watch the Dagobah scenes and you're like, "All right, let's get back to Han and Leia.
Yeah, they're the best
are they
part.
gonna fuck or what? Let's get some goddamn let's get some space titties going in this bitch."
I love the tension between I love their, like, romance and adventurous side quest in this.
Yeah,
It's probably
their
my favorite
chemistry's
part.
on fire.
It's unmatched, yeah. So good. Um, but I love, R2 though, so I did have to kind of enjoy his scenes with Luke.
Well, one
Oh,
day, my friends, I know I have angered so many Star Wars fans, and if you want to send us hate mail, you can message
feel
us.
free.
Go ahead, send us a text message. You scroll down to our episode description. There's a link that says "Send us a text message." I'm open to be talked to, you know, debated, whatever you will. maybe one day we'll dive into these Star Wars trilogies when I have enough energy and when I'm ready for an even more amount of hate mail. I apologize.
We're emotionally available to it.
Yeah, I apologize if I've offended anybody. It's just my personal experience and how I felt like I was absolutely betrayed. And when you betray a motherfucker so many goddamn times, he's liable to lose his shit. See the Great White Hope.
Yep. Your feelings are valid.
All right, my friends. With that, I say we take a quick break. And during that break, we are going to hear from Gimme 3 producer, LADFF Film Festival director, Sonia Maru, in a segment that we call Sonia's Movie Minute. Stick around for all that and much more here on the Gimme 3 podcast.
Hello, I'm Sonia, and this is my Movie Minute. It's wonderful and incredible how James Earl Jones is so deeply ingrained in the fabric of American cinema for several generations of audiences. For me growing up, and I assume for my generation in general, he represented these deep-voiced, usually wise father figures. Mufasa in The Lion King, and the King of Zamuda in Coming to America. Of course, the voice of Darth Vader in Star Wars, the ultimate dysfunctional daddy. What I didn't realize until far too recently was how sexy and funny he was. A few years ago, Nick and his partner in crime, Dr. Eric So, threw one of their epic Slumber Slam viewing parties. The theme was movies starring Star Wars cast members, and one of the films was Claudine, starring James Earl Jones. There's a scene in that movie where he brings Claudine to his apartment for the first time, and he has this bachelor pad love nest, complete with various animal prints. It completely changed my perspective on him forever. He's so great in Claudine, and he really gets to show his range. If you haven't seen, I highly recommend it. James Earl Jones, what a voice, what a face, what a guy, what a life. Thanks for leaving a wealth of great films behind. You will be dearly missed.
All right, welcome back, everybody, to the Gimme 3 podcast, a series for cinephiles. On today's episode, we are exploring the life and career, the legacy, the one, the only, James Earl Jones. We have discussed The Great White Hope, his first leading role. We discussed The Empire Strikes Back, his iconic character, Darth Vader. And it was great hearing Sonia touch on Claudine, a wonderful film. And if you want to hear Bella and I discuss Claudine in depth, you can go to episode 16 of the Gimme 3 podcast, an episode called More Great Mother Characters. It's a great episode, and we have a great discussion about Claudine. But for now, we're going to bring it home, pun intended, with Field of Dreams from 1989, written and directed by Phil Alden Robinson, based on the novel by W.P. Kinsella. The film stars Kevin Costner, James Earl Jones, Ray Liotta, and Amy Madigan. So we've got Ray, this guy, and his wife, Annie, and their daughter. They've just moved to Idaho. And why, you may ask? Well, obviously, these lovebirds from Berkeley, they want to start a farm. So one evening, Ray is, doing some farm shit, and all of a sudden he hears this voice, this creepy voice that says, "If you build it, he will come." And for no apparent reason other than what is a very clear acid flashback, Ray takes this voice, this saying, as a sign that he needs to build a baseball field right in the middle of his crop. And if he does this, the spirit of Shoeless Joe Jackson will return. Shoeless Joe Jackson was his father's favorite baseball player, a father that he did not particularly get along with. So Ray feels like he's got to build this baseball field, and if he doesn't, he's going to end up like his father, stoic, uninspiring, a working stiff. So he builds it. And much to his surprise, the ghost of Joe Jackson, Shoeless Joe Jackson, yeah. The ghost of Joe Jackson and other baseball players come to this field, and they're playing on the field. It's great. But you know what else comes, Bella?
What?
Bills.
Reality.
Bills. Reality. A little thing called reality. And when these bills come, so do more voices. This guy's tripping again. And I'm just like, I'll have what he's having. And again, for absolutely no reason at all, Ray thinks these voices signify that he must find and collaborate with Terrence Mann, who's played by James Earl Jones, who is a brilliant writer and novelist who has basically disappeared from the face of the earth. So Ray decides to leave his wife and kid who can't pay the goddamn bills, and he's going to go find a writer and just go watch some baseball. You know, it's like, yeah, fuck it.
Seems like the right thing to do.
Together, Ray and Terrence Mann, they work to uncork the supernatural mystery that is starting to consume their lives and the lives around them. It's a heartfelt fantasy film about the love for baseball, fulfilling your dreams, redemption, and forgiveness. And in my opinion, the film is a little bit of a mess, but we'll get into that. Bella, what were your thoughts on Field of Dreams?
Oh, Field of Dreams. Well, where do I begin? I've been doing this thing on the podcast where if I haven't seen the movie and I don't know anything about it, I'll just go in completely blind because I think it's really fun to just go into something with like zero expectations.
It's the way the good Lord intended.
Experience. Exactly. Yeah. I don't know if this movie was the right one to do that for because the twist was quite a shock for me. And I think it might have been better if I knew at least a little bit about the basic plot beforehand, because even though I went in blind, I did have some like preconceived notions. Like I thought this might be like a Moneyball or like Radio, just typical sports movie. So as soon as Kevin Costner started hearing that godlike creepy voice and the vision of the baseball field, my jaw was on the floor. I was like, oh my God, what did I get myself into? And then my jaw just kept dropping even further and further as soon as the ball playing ghosts showed up. So yeah, this was a crazy movie.
Yeah, the ball playing ghosts for me are the least of the issues with it. Yeah, it's like, all right,
that's just the beginning.
That's good. Yeah. That's fine. I'm down. But
no, yeah, I can fully appreciate this film for what it is in the context of it being like an iconic 80s movie. And I can appreciate it for what it did and what it continues to do for the generations that grew up with it and loved it. But I have to admit, I did not like this. This is not exactly my kind of movie. I'm not a huge sports fan. I didn't grow up watching baseball at all. So all of that history and the magic of the game was pretty lost on me. But I can 100% see how much fun this concept in this film would be for baseball fans. Like that is really cool. My last criticism is I just also really struggle with Kevin Costner. I'm sorry. He hasn't really done anything wrong to my knowledge. He just really irks me as an actor. So fantasy baseball and Kevin Costner, Field of Dreams was not exactly my cup of tea. That being said, James Earl Jones got me through this movie. He was fantastic. I thought he was fantastic in this. Easily my favorite part. I loved his portrayal of Terrence Mann. I think he was just all around the best. He was the most likable character. He had the best lines, the best delivery. And so, yeah, I think this still, even though I didn't love it, I think this was a great film to watch for our tribute to him because he's so wonderful in this.
Yeah, he's magnificent. And once he comes into the picture, which isn't until about the 45-minute mark, the film really does start to like find its footing. And I don't know what it is, but just there's something about his presence that makes all of the fantastical elements. Like prior to him showing up on the screen, the movie's a little all over the place. It is just jumping around, and the tone is here and then it's there and it's everywhere. But there's something about James Earl Jones when he comes onto the screen, he just like levels out Kevin Costner's character. He's like, listen here, son of a bitch. Yeah, you crap motherfucker. You do what I tell you. You sit where I tell you, and this and that. And he kind of does that with the audience in a way also. You know, he kind of just like settles everything down. And even though like the film still continues to escalate in terms of like it's wow, what is happening moments. There's something about just him being in the film that just makes you be like, okay, it's gonna be okay. We're gonna get
it's so true. Yes.
So yeah, his portrayal of man adds a much needed layer of like just genuine humanity to the film. He's still kind of big and bold in this film, but there's something about the way that he is like big and bold that just feels very believable. And
it's so natural.
I noticed something about his character in this that made me think about his character in all the films that we've discussing James Earl Jones, not just The Great White Hope and Empire and Field of Dreams, but also with Claudine also. And that it is a character who has been beaten down by the system or by the man, you know, over and over and over again. And he is just over it. And so what does he do? He disappears, whether it's, you know, fleeing love like he does in Claudine, fleeing the country like he does in The Great White Hope, or fleeing himself like he does, you know, in the Star Wars saga or in this film. So I just thought that was something interesting that clearly James Earl Jones, whether consciously or subconsciously, kind of gravitates towards in his characters. Even in Coming to America, where it's not his character that's doing that, but it's his son's character that's doing that. So it's just something that he's kind of like always, I think, gravitated towards in the roles that he takes. I thought that was fascinating.
So cool. I love that. I didn't put that together, but 100% I can see that. And God, that's what made him like you said, ground this film as well. I really liked that point he makes where he's like, you know, I got sick of people just, I don't remember the exact quote, but he says something like, I wanted people to actually like care and do things for themselves and not just put everything on me.
Right.
And that's totally like similar to some of the conversations we see in The Great White Hope. So yeah, that's really interesting. And he has so many great lines and like monologues in this film too. He was like the one thing that I actually enjoyed in this movie. Everything else was difficult for me. And I'm sorry, I know people are going to be upset about that.
We're getting a lot of hate mail today.
I know. Even after finishing it, I called Jonathan and I was like, well, I finished that piece of shit.
Wow.
Because I knew it was going to get a reaction out of him.
Is he a big Field of Dreams fan?
He definitely grew up on it, really liked it, loves baseball. So that's why I kind of was like, you know, poking the bear.
Wow. Hell, I didn't know you had it in you. And gee whiz.
Oh man, but yeah, he was like, how dare you? Like, and then I even brought it up with a friend. I was like, yeah, I watched Field of Dreams the other day. And he's like, oh, awesome. And I was like, yeah. He's like, are you kidding me? I was like, damn, this just really was. I did not understand this movie, I guess, you know, it was just not for me.
Here's what I will say, Bella.
Yeah.
There were a lot of moments in this film where I was like, what in the fuck is going on? You know?
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I am here comes a big spoiler. Okay.
Yes.
The final scene where we discovered that if you build it, he will come. that the he was not actually referring to Shoeless Joe Jackson, but about Ray's father, whom he had an estranged relationship with.
Right.
And in the final moments, Ray, all he's able to do is take some of his father's grief away by having a catch with his dad, something that he would not do when he was a teenager because he was too much of a little, asshole teenager.
Mm-hmm.
To be able to like see his father and have some of that, redemption, and the score and those moments of that film is really wonderful, and it just swells right at the right time. Not my favorite baseball movie, but I will tell you, at the end of that movie, I was crying my goddamn eyes out. It got me right in the tuchus,
Yeah,
So
it's really emotional.
It is. If you're looking for an easy tearjerker, especially if you're a fan of baseball, then this one is for you. I have much like I have a love-hate relationship with Star Wars, I have a love-hate relationship with baseball, in particular Major League Baseball, because this movie kind of touches on it, where the ghosts of, I think in the film it's the White Sox, in reality it was the Black Sox, the ghosts of this White Sox team were banned from baseball because they took a fall. They were caught cheating. There is corruption in baseball. And there's so many instances in baseball where there is proven cheating. Most recently in 2017, when the goddamn piece of shit Houston Astros were caught cheating my goddamn beloved Los Angeles Dodgers out of the World Series championship. And did those fucking players get banned from baseball, Bella? Did they? No, they got a fucking slap on the wrist, those pieces of shit. So I do have a very strong love-hate relationship with baseball. I love it, but then you also have moments like just this past week, these poor Oakland Athletics fans crying their eyes out because their team is leaving the city and going to Las Vegas because they didn't want to subsidize a billionaire so that way he can make his new stadium and get money from the city. It's like, bro, you're a billionaire. And you have these scenes at this last Oakland Athletics game of people just crying their eyes out because this is where they brought their kids. This is where they were raised. And now it's going to Las fucking Vegas. So
criminal,
I think, is a great way to describe Major League Baseball throughout its history. There's just so much history of corruption and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And this movie kind of touches on why I like this movie was because it kind of brought out the dichotomy of baseball, where you have that corruption and that icky stuff in it, but you also have there's something magical about just like a dad and his son playing catch. And that's something that you can't take away. And James Earl Jones gives this speech about the power of baseball and how baseball is, I don't agree with the writing of this line where he's like baseball is the best of America. I think it would have been better if he said it's the best and the worst of America, because I think it is that. It is the best of America and it is the worst of America.
Yeah.
And the film captures it, but it doesn't say it.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that.
I'd like to hear what Jonathan thinks of that.
I know. Oh man. I mean, I feel bad for how much I'm shitting on this. I really do, because I don't think it's like a bad movie by any means. And I did really like the concept of like the themes of nostalgia and like, wanting to go back and experience these things that you grew up with. I really, really like that concept. So I'm not saying this is a bad movie at all. Just need to make that clear.
Well,
do I think it deserved to be nominated for Best Picture?
Well, that's take that up with the Academy. That's a whole other thing. But I didn't read the novel, but it does feel like there was a lot of connective tissue that is missing in this script. Like sometimes they're just like just him going immediately to the conclusion, like, oh, I need to just go find Terrence Mann. It's like, what?
I was like, what the hell is happening?
I feel like in the book there, it probably was not that like out of the blue, or I could be wrong. If anybody who's read the book, please let us know. But the director himself, Robinson, he was struggling with this picture. There's a lot of accounts of him being like hella depressed and stressed on set. He thought he was not doing the novel justice. And you know what? Sometimes that happens. You get super stressed and depressed. You know when this happens? When you're working 6-day weeks, which is what this film was doing. 6-day weeks to get Kevin Costner shot out in time so he can go make the movie Revenge. So just add that to your list of negatives for your Kevin Costner, your pal Kevin Costner, Bella. They were shooting
now he has done something wrong. Now I have a reason.
They were shooting 6-day weeks to get this guy out in time. But yeah, and the other thing I'm going to mention before we can move on, because I know I've been rambling a lot in this episode.
No, I love it.
That giant, I just discovered this. The end, when I'm crying my eyes out, and the guy's playing catch with his dad, and the camera pulls out, and you see all these cars lined up for miles come into the field. If you build it, they will come. All these cars coming to the baseball field. That is not VFX.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Those are real cars. 1,500 vehicles, in fact. Because they had.
Oh my God.
They had the director.
Jesus.
Like, I think it was already in the middle of production. They had this idea to do this shot. And the city commission helped them out and made this like filming day a giant community event. And they sent a PA out to go kind of like measure how many cars would be needed to like create this giant wide shot. The crew's hiding in the field, so that way you didn't see the crew when you do the big aerial shot. So all those cars were real freaking cars.
That's insane.
And that's where I'm kind of like, give them the Best Picture nomination. Who gives a fuck?
Yeah, that's pretty impressive shit. I mean, yeah, I was so shocked to learn that, like, the Field of Dreams is real, and like you can still go to it, and like they really built this whole place, in Iowa. It's all real, So it is really cool. I think this movie is definitely a massive part of like culture and history. It had a big influence on a lot of people, and I do respect it for that.
Absolutely. Well, you know who had a big influence on culture and history? James Earl Jones.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm sad to wrap our tribute. I want to do another one. We've seen so many powerful performances from The Great White Hope, iconic villains, heartwarming monologues in Field of Dreams. James Earl Jones has really, truly given us some unforgettable moments in film history, and there are still so many more films and performances to be enjoyed all these years later from him. So everyone, and myself included, I'm definitely going to be watching some more James Earl Jones films in the future. Anyways, we hope you all enjoyed this episode of the Gimme 3 podcast. Thank you so much for listening. If you're enjoying our episodes and you want to help us reach more cinephiles like you, as we said before, download our episodes on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And we also want to hear from you guys. So, we want to hear your thoughts on the episodes, future episodes you want to see, future themes, future films, anything. So you can follow us on Instagram at Gimme3Podcast. That's GIMME, spell out 3 podcast, and leave your comments under our posts. You can also send us a text, as we said before. We'd love to receive those. So just scroll down to the send us a text link in each of our episode descriptions. Once again, you can always sign up for our Patreon, just $5 a month. We've got a lot of really fun bonus episodes on there for you guys to enjoy. Specifically, I love our favorite hidden gems that we discovered in the last couple months. So definitely check that out if interested. Once again, I want to shout out all our listeners and subscribers. Thank you so much for your support. It means the world to us. And now, Nick, you can tell our lovely listeners where they can find you on the socials.
You could find me on Letterboxd at Nicholas Ibarra. You can find me on Instagram at Nicholas Ibarra. You can find me on Twitter, also known as X, at Nicholas P. Ibarra. And the P stands for pontificator, much in honor of James Earl Jones, a great pontificator.
Love it. And you guys can find me on Instagram at Portrait of a Cinephile or on Letterboxd at Beth Stratus. That's just B and then my last name, F Stratus. Once again, thank you for joining us on the Gimme 3 podcast, and we'll see you at the movies.